Live in 2.
Right.
Good afternoon and welcome to the August 16th meeting of the HRA Board. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And the minutes can show that a quorum is present. First item, first we'll just, for the benefit of those watching, introduce our new board member, Bill Hansen. You want to introduce yourself to people who don't know you?
Well, I'm Bill Hansen. I live just outside Grand Marais on the east side, but spent most of my life at the end of the Sawbill Trail where I own Sawbill Canoe Outfitters.
All right. Welcome aboard.
Welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Glad to be
All
here.
right. And you know everyone here, everyone knows you, you've all met, so we'll go forward. I'll just add that when I came to Cook County some 40 years ago, Bill was one of my first bosses. So we're doing a full circle.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's great. It's great to have you here. All right, first I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda or accept any additions or changes.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
I'll second.
Gabler and O'Brien, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, the agenda is approved. And then approval of the July minutes or any changes or corrections?
I'll move to approve them.
Chris?
I wasn't at the meeting, so I don't feel comfortable.
I'll second it.
There you go.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
I was
right.
at the meeting via Zoom.
Oh, that's right.
So I
Right.
couldn't vote.
Yes, you were at home with illness. Okay, I see there's no one in the room, so I'm assuming there's no public comment. Then we'll move on to the new business, Resolution 23-15, authorizing the executive director to issue a request for proposals to solicit interest for the development of real property into residential housing. This is regarding the land currently owned by Minnesota Power. We've been considering, and Jason, you just want to explore whether there's any potential for this property before we acquire it, correct? So, any questions or discussion about that? A RFP process through your channels and networks, and just wait and see what we get back?
Well, I like the idea of conducting that kind of survey first, given that the parcel itself and the issues that are involved in it, and before we go spending a lot of money and
Right.
the lawyers and everybody else, I thought this was really a practical approach. So
It's a very good.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we've, in our meeting last month, we identified, we had done reviewed the wetland delineation, and I think for us, it's hard to discern whether those are showstopper issues or not. And I think
Correct.
the RFP is the best way to do it. So.
I agree. I know my first look at that map that Jason shared with us, I thought he was showing us a picture of a lake. So, okay, a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move approval of Resolution 2315.
And a second?
I will second it.
Any further discussion?
Sheriff, I'd offer just two quick comments. I know I'm not
Please do.
Commissioner. I have talked with a few different contractors about this particular property, sending them that waterfront property picture that the board saw last meeting. And part of the reason that I thought an RFP might make sense is because, surprisingly, there was some interest. Of course, some of that comes down to the wetland bank we have in Cook County and the availability of those credits. And I also thought this is different from, I just think it's sort of important to note, this is different from, for example, the Switchback Village project, because that property is of a scale and scope that there aren't any local contractor developers sizable enough to take that on by themselves. Because of this particular property, this might be a really good opportunity for a local builder if they're so inclined to pursue this. So it's an opportunity to see what interest there is and then see if there are any local options or opportunities for builders here too.
Okay.
So,
Very good.
That's all.
Appreciate that.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
So, timeline thinking, Will we have some responses by our meeting next month, or a longer time frame than that, probably?
Great question, Chair. I would like to leave at least 6 weeks open.
Okay.
So my objective or aim here is to issue it in the fall. Again, we're issuing the auditing RFP next Monday for auditing services, so I want to make sure that I'm not crossing too many wires here. But issuing this by the end of fall so that we can get responses and then start doing hopefully some planning over the winter months so that we can do spring construction or summer construction if we find an appropriate proposal.
Okay,
I
good.
had a question. So is the, what's going to be the scope of responses that are requested? Are we going to ask, the number of units of housing, the cost, the time, what are we going to ask for in the RFP or in the proposals?
Great question, Commissioner. So my intention is to develop the RFP such that lays out, obviously, the wetland delineation, provides what information we have on the site, including the fact that right now it's zoned as light industrial, I believe, light commercial. It's actually not even zoned appropriately for housing. Having said that, the surrounding property is all residential. So I want to be able to paint the picture of what it is, what the HRA is interested in helping it be, which is single-family units and maximizing that site from a density perspective, and then opening it up to their interpretation of that. I think if we do it too fine parameters, we might exclude some people, but if we make it clear that our objective is to, following zoning code, maximize the use of the property and while protecting the wetlands, then I at least am very open to see what people come up with.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So it sounds like we're going to leave it pretty open-ended. We're not going to identify like scoring criteria up front. We're just going to sort of lay out what, I guess I'm just wondering, when we get, let's say we got 5 responses, and are we clear how we're going to compare the different responses?
Great question. So that does stem to another question that I had for the board. If we issue the RFP, of course, I think I say this in the statement of purpose, the thought is that we would have a group come together, and then if we get one or more quality proposals, then we would score them. Now, to your point or question, what are we going to provide as a scoring criteria, or what are they going to have to live up to? My presumption is, my intent anyway, was to simply say, maximizing the site, following the zoning code, and also time frame.
Okay.
Now, if we want to be more prescriptive than that, we certainly can.
I would only add the experience of the contractor.
Sure, yep.
To that, or the capability of
Capability.
the contractor.
Yep,
But
yep.
otherwise, you just hit the high points.
That's the intent. Now, I am also happy to provide that to folks before. My intention is to send the RFP to the board, and I'm going to, and say, here, this is what I'm planning on issuing. Any questions about this?
Yeah, that sounds.
So we'll see that one.
Sure, yeah, I wouldn't issue without you having.
Yeah, no, I'm
seen
not
it.
trying to.
Oh, no, understood. It's a great question.
Gum up the works, but I just want to be sure.
No,
that
absolutely.
we're thinking ahead more.
Yep, so if that's okay, I will draft the RFP, send it out for review. If you have any changes, we can absolutely do that, and then we'll get it out and see what responses we get back.
Good.
Excellent. So I believe we need to call for the vote. Did we make the motion?
Yes, yep, I'm sorry.
I got lost in there.
Gabler, and
It's
then
been
O'Brien
made.
seconded.
Okay, all
Second.
those in favor, signify.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that stands approved. Then we have a new application for District 1 Commissioner. Richard Olson of Hoveland has submitted his application. We understand that the approval of applications stands with the county board, but we talked about whether or not this board wanted to send a message to the county board.
If you want to make a recommendation.
Right.
Well, I looked at it and I was pleased that we had a respondent that had enough community involvement and clearly understands what's going on in the county and has an interest in housing. I was impressed, and I'd certainly support that kind of a nomination.
All right, is that a motion to make a recommendation?
Oh, okay. I think I just made a motion to support the recommendation, or
I'll second.
the nomination.
Okay, thank you.
I
Gaylor
just
and Hanson.
comment that I know Richard well, and I think he'd be an excellent commissioner, so I support the recommendation wholeheartedly.
Likewise.
Okay, and I have a recommendation, a motion from Commissioner Gabler and a second from Commissioner Hanson.
Correct.
Great.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Then we have other business. Jason's going to give us updates on all the exciting things going on. Switchback Village.
Yes, and Chair, I think on your agenda, it's under item 4, other topics. I had a couple of things that have come up since I sent this out, so. But Switchback Village, I just received, well, I'll get ahead of myself. We are working on closing. The closing date is the 24th. So I'll be closing on the 23rd, and the developer's going to coordinate with remote closing with the office in Duluth, and then they have submitted
Of August.
Yes, I'm sorry, of August. Yes,
Yeah.
so next week they have submitted the required proof of financing as the development agreement outlines. They are excited and ready to go. So if we close next week, barring some crazy thing, they'll right now, frankly, they are running into some issues with concrete, and I may be coming to you next month with something about that. As I understand it, there is a provider in county, but their capacity is quite limited.
Small.
They can do a slab for a single-family home or something, and this is, 200 by 35 feet or something like that. It's a pretty big slab. So they're having the closest one of capacities in 2 harbors. So that's creating some challenges. Other than that, though, I mean, they're committed to working through it. I've actually already had a few people call me and ask me when that's going to be done because they would like to rent
An apartment.
Start your list.
Yeah, start the list. I kind of am joking with the developer. Do you guys are taking leasing yet? And they said we haven't started. We don't own the property, but yeah, soon. Any questions on that project generally? Okay. Ribbon. Yes, we're going to do a groundbreaking. Yes, ma'am.
Groundbreaking.
That is on my radar, and it's on theirs as well. We're just trying to fine tune the timing for that.
Whenever that's good for them to be up here for
Yep.
other reasons. They
Yep.
don't, not just to come for a
Right.
Yep.
celebration.
Temperance Trails, that's the Tofty project. We just got finalized approval from the Army Corps for wetlands. So that plan is, the wetland delineation's done. They're working on finalizing their site plan now. I just got a signature from a neighboring property owner for the access easement this morning. I'm going to recruit the chair and vice chair after this meeting to get another signature. Then we have one more, and then we'll solidify that. So just as a reminder, we're planning on closing with that developer sometime in September. And then they're aiming to be on the planning commission meeting here at the county in October for the plat.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And I'm sorry, where did they land in terms, I know they were initially talking about 10 housing units and then up to 24 with duplexes. Do you know where they landed?
Their site plan shows 26.
26.
Some of this will come down to, 2 things. One, they want to pre-sell as many as possible because they don't want to bankroll spec build, 26 units. So, but they want to lay it out such if the townhome model with single level living is attractive and does well, then they want to be able to build more of those. So that's why the number went up a little bit. Of course, if there isn't that market for it, they'll pivot and do more single family homes.
No, I think it's great.
Yeah. So the septic's laid out. Now it's just it's the back end final details that are time consuming. But they're very excited about that, and they want to make sure that they do this right so that there are other opportunities to do more of these. So,
Excellent.
okay, pilot project. I put in the packet the grant agreement draft. Commissioner, before we started, Commissioner Gabler was making the point that it's quite a detailed document for homeowners, and I just want to acknowledge, yes, it is.
I thought that as well.
Yes, it is. It is. 2 reasons for that. One, of course, we're trying to protect both the homeowner and the HRA in this arrangement. And 2, this would be the form, more or less, of a future program. And so we're trying to iron some of those documents and those kinks out. I'll also say that the plan is that the quote capital T team, the 4 entities here, is one of those team members will be sitting down with the homeowner to go over all of this and answer any of those questions. But I had our attorney look at this after I drafted it, and he thinks it's a great program. Actually, he said this, if it works, it'll be exciting, and thinks it's all ready to go.
I was actually speaking with Kat Mayo from CCLAP about it, and she was less familiar with these types of contracts, and she found it actually very clear. You know, the fact that, you know, the definitions were so clearly laid out at the beginning.
Oh, good.
I think it's going to, for people to take the time to read it, I think you'll find it actually pretty accessible. And I thought it did a good job of addressing the concerns we raised at the last meeting about about the criteria that need to be included in the contract. So, you know, like an itemized invoice and so forth. So.
Good, that's good feedback, thank you, Commissioners. Trying to navigate the balance of not being too legalese, but also accessibility for
Yeah.
folks, so.
No,
We'll see, I'm sure we'll get some feedback, but again, you know, the reality is, a lot of homeowners won't have experience doing these types of things, period, so as
Right.
long as we have an advocate and assistant to help them through the process, and they get the repairs they need, I think it's a win-win. I have talked with, by the way, the new chair, our new executive director, of the Lloyd K. Johnson Foundation. We had a meeting, and I told them about this program, and this is something that if it works, that they might be interested in helping to provide funds for in the future, so.
That's great.
Yep. Any questions about that grant agreement or anything else you'd like to see before we start proceeding with trying to get some projects started or reaching out to folks?
No, I really appreciate the team's intent of sitting down with people, and I would anticipate, once there are some successes with the program, that those homeowners might be willing to also encourage others
I hope.
to feel comfortable going forward and doing
That's a
some-
really good point.
I am very excited. Do you want us to act on this, or just nod our heads and say, keep going?
Yeah, the last meeting we left it really that the board wanted to just see some of the things that were mentioned, itemized and a grant agreement actually produced. So if you want to do a motion to proceed with the whatever you're comfortable with, I just want to make sure that you all saw this before we start actually reaching out to these eligible applicants.
Okay.
So whatever you feel is necessary for us to keep going, because after this meeting, I'll connect with the group here and say, hey, you know, board's ready to go.
But we are going to be a signatory to that agreement with the
Bless you.
homeowner? Well, then I think we better have some kind of a motion approving the program and the format of the contract, so I'll make that motion.
Well, we already, just point of order, quick, Commissioner, the board passed a resolution for the funds for the program,
right.
just subject to seeing the final version. So, and in light of that, maybe just saying, we've seen the final document.
Version, this is good, yeah, please,
So
okay,
a motion to approve
Approving
the
the
document
document.
that's presented?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Is
And
there a
Move
second?
forward with the program,
Thank you, Commissioner.
final.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by
Aye.
saying aye.
Nice work.
Aye.
Nice work, Jason.
Excellent job.
Yeah.
Okay, Cedar Grove lots, Planning Commission meeting, Grand Marais today, correct?
Yes, so these are the items that I don't think everybody has on their agenda, that I added. You have it.
I
You
have
got a
it.
special agenda.
Thank
Chair's
you.
prerogative, I guess. Yes, so today, after this meeting, I'll be attending the Planning Commission meeting at the city for the rezoning of the 2 southeasterly lots in the Cedar Grove Business Park. I have been connecting with some builders. One of them is, I've been talking with him for 9 months or something. He is interested in doing townhomes at that site. He walked the property, and so, you know, part of, again, this process to feel out what the appetite might be. And now that we know that there might be an appetite, we're going to go and request that this gets rezoned. And I suspect the Planning Commission will approve that because it's been talked about for several years. And then, you know, the intent of the EDA is to convey it to the HRA for this purpose for housing. So that's just the next step in that process. Chair?
Yes, and if and when the Planning Commission approves it, then the City Council must also approve
Correct.
it. And then the EDA would transfer the property to the HRA.
We wanted to, at the EDA meeting, they were very clearly in support of this, but we said we wanted to make sure that we could build something there before we get the property from the
Correct.
EDA. We didn't want to receive it and then not be able to do anything
Not
with
be
it.
able to build on it, yeah.
Yep.
Has there been any look at the wetlands there?
Yes. Yep, the wetlands are mostly concentrated to the southern part of the site, but the sort of order of operations here is if we get the approval to rezone it, then we can actually spend the money to get a formal wetland delineation done. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember when we were working with potential developers of assisted living on those lots. But that delineation is probably more than 5 years old and doesn't hold
Expired.
value anymore, yeah.
Yeah, my hope would be to partner with whoever the builder would be, and ideally the HRA could have them pay for it. That's what I'm going to try to do. We'll see. So if we get, again, I think it's a good site and utilities are there, so I'm optimistic about housing there.
Just
Very much.
remind me the size of the lots.
Total, there are 2 lots and they're approximately 4 acres total. There is a drainage stream ditch
Yep.
that in this, in a waterfall season has some nice water going through it, and then the rest of the year is not so much. But that bifurcates the property into 2 discrete chunks. Yeah.
And I assume this would be accessed from 7th Avenue East, not from
Actually,
the Gunflint Trail?
it would probably actually be from the Gunflint Trail. Because at 7th Avenue, well, there are wetlands on the southern part of the site, and there's a kind of a clean line, the residential to the east of the property. There's that's all private property. So I suspect there are 2 probable access points, and some of this comes down to the county engineer and where they think it should go, that sort of thing. I think that we're open generally, but I suspect the utilities are there too.
Yeah, just my comment would be that 7th Avenue East, I think, is the only gravel street left in Grand
City
Marais.
limits.
I don't know how this would impact that, but
Yep. Any other questions about Cedar Grove? Okay.
No.
A couple of things have come up just today, or this week. One is I was contacted by a local gentleman that I've been talking with for a while. Do you know the folk houses? Folk houses? Yes, that's right. Okay, folk school. Wow, I'm sorry. North House Folk School. Goodness gracious. They have that yellow building,
Yes.
the little house, right? That's going to be removed, and they were looking for a place to locate that.
Yeah.
And they had reached out to me several months ago. We were pretty preoccupied with these 2 developments, and there wasn't a good place to put anything. Well, the gentleman who's actually taking that house reached out to me because subsequent to him, finding a place for that structure, he had other people reach out to him and say, hey, are you in the business of taking structures that would be raised? And so he and I are talking, and I wanted to bring to the board's attention, there might be an opportunity for a role for us to play to save some of these seasonal homes or smaller structures that, if they're in good enough shape, we can locate them temporarily on the north side, for example, the property that the HRA owns in town, and then find a place, like we could work with a Hamilton Habitat or some other partner to salvage these structures and then reuse them. I wanted to put that on the general radar, and if you're interested in me looking into this further, then I will do so. He has 2 or 3 that he knows of, the people have reached out and said they're going to be raising these cabins. And again, it's all subject to the property.
Several more since then, I think.
Yeah.
He's getting calls all the time.
Yeah. Oh, has he? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I had a conversation with Jeff Corey, the executive director of One Roof, about this, and he said they have a policy of not getting involved in moving houses. They did it early in their career. They did 3 of them, and all 3 were problematic to the point where they don't do it again. So I think it's a very case-by-case basis, and want to proceed with caution on that. I think the one that's happening with North House is it's a passion project for him. I don't think he's doing it as a profitable developer type situation, more of a passion project, which is great.
Yeah, and I asked him if he wanted more passion projects.
Yeah.
He said no.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to be cognizant, to your point, very well put, Commissioner, that this is an opportunity, but it also could be challenging and tricky. So I hate to see structures demolished that could be reused, given our housing shortage. I also, having renovated a few houses myself, I know that there are can of worms. So I just, at this point, I guess I just ask if the board could nod for me to look a little more deeply into this, if you're interested or not.
Sure.
And then, again, one of the biggest challenges they have is people who are reaching out to this gentleman you're referring to, and he doesn't have a place to put the houses. And so if we have, call it an extra 7 acres, where we could clear a little spot, put it on blocks or something for the winter season or something until we find an appropriate place, maybe that's an opportunity. It's at least worth looking at, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say Yeah, I wouldn't, I'd say a toe in the water, it makes the most sense just to, yeah, I mean, I'm a little skeptical just given, you know, the likely costs of tying in with the sewer and with all the infrastructure work that's going to be required on the back end, and it's a lot of work for one housing unit compared to the amount of leverage we're getting in some of these other projects where we're,
But is your intent, Jason, that we wouldn't be doing that? We would hold it for someone who would then purchase it and they would do all the hookups, right?
My contention would be if the house or structure was in, let's call it decent shape, salvageable and usable, so not condemnable.
I see that, which is putting it there for
We're just
storage, not
holding it?
for someone
Yeah.
to look. Got
My
it.
intent would
Okay.
be matchmaking. So we
Yeah.
would hold the structure, find people that were interested that had the land.
Got it.
I will say though, what complication with that is, we'd have to do some sort of open process to offer the house.
To make it available. in
Yep,
a
so to your
public
point,
process.
there's a lot of administrative work that can go into that sort of thing too.
Or
so-
just providing a low-cost place to store houses that are being moved. In the meantime, I'm aware of one that's in a private storage now, waiting
Mm.
to go to a new site. So that has come up as an issue. So
Yep, that's,
might be a role for us.
Yeah.
and that would be easier, frankly, Commissioner, that would be easier than, let's say, accepting someone, what I understand most of the situation is people are like, hey, we're gonna build on this site and we have this old
Yeah.
house or cabin. And we accept that and they don't really want anything else to do with it. And then we say, okay, we have this structure, now what do we do? Well, we would do with it. We don't want to develop it. I can renovate the house, but then I can't do anything else, so.
Right. That was
But-
my fear.
Yeah, I have my tool belt, but I don't, so then the complication really isn't to think about, once we have it, if there's not somebody else who's willing to pick it up, back up, and like, if there's not a prearranged situation, then we have to be the decision maker on who gets it.
Yeah,
I struggle, because it's a house saved, which is a house saved, right?
right. I would suggest that perhaps we think of this project as locating homes that could be moved instead of raised, because if it's a house that should be raised, we don't want anything to do with it.
Oh, no,
right?
they're just saying if they can't find a place to put it, they'll raise it.
Then they're gonna
Yeah,
raise
yeah.
it?
Yeah, I want nothing to do with condemnable houses.
So moved rather than raised. Just,
Oh, sure, yep.
yeah, just
Yeah, this was
so
just a
that
note
people
from you.
understand, we're not talking about trying to relocate substandard,
Fishing shacks.
not,
Right.
not habitable. Okay. Yeah, let us know.
Okay. I'll explore a little bit more, I
More.
suppose, then, and I'll let you know. I don't know what the market is for this. There may be more than I know of for folks looking to do this.
I know somebody who would want one of those.
Well, I can think of those too, right?
Right.
And I guess my point is, if there were enough of them and we created a sort of workflow to do this, it would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a one or two, I don't know yet. I have to think a
You
little
see how
more
it
deeply
goes.
through it.
Could be a interesting project. It will be. Everything is interesting that we do here, I think.
Yes. Well, and just quickly, there might be an opportunity to work with someone like a Hamilton Habitat, where it's a nonprofit and we act as a pass-through. And we hold the homes until they find the property, and if they're interested, we give them the house. So that would be sort of another way of doing it that we can justify because it's for an affordable, income-eligible property, so.
Another thing for you to check out while you're exploring this is IRRR has a residential redevelopment grant program. And typically it's for like demolition of a property that's been damaged to make way for new development. But it might be worth an email to Chris Ismail and describe this
Yeah.
idea and see if they would accept applications. Because regardless, there's going to be cost in moving it and disconnecting it and reconnecting it and whatever. So I would suggest that you might give them an inquiry.
Chair, you reminded me of something, sorry, quickly, I forgot to mention that Swissback Village, just so that you're up to speed, the developer had issued, as is required, a public bid request. So as part of the grant, Bill, I know you've been tracking this, but we received $500,000 from IRRR for that project. Part of the, requirements is that for the work that the grant is funding, in this case, it's the earthwork portion, because it's an infrastructure grant, that the developer publicly bid that portion so that there's an opportunity for people to respond. Well, not terribly surprising, but it's never happened to IRRR before, is what I found out. No one responded.
Zero?
0 responses. Because, and they issued it in the Cook County News Herald as well as the DNT, Duluth News Tribune. So this is just, the reason I mention is just to evidence how things are a little trickier up here. And so we're working through with council whether or not they can just work directly with a provider or a contractor, because I think that they have a preferred contractor they might be able to work with. But I'm waiting to get a final verdict on that point.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and Chris Ismail, I was talking to him multiple times this week, and I just was reminded, he said, yeah, we've never had that happen, so we're not really sure what to do.
Right, I know in cases where the public bid process requires, at that level of investment from the agency requires 3 bids, and I've known of cases where there were only 1 or 2,
Yeah.
but the agency accepted that proof that you did the
Tried to get it.
call,
Right.
and that's all you got, so they accepted it. But, yeah, 0 response, wow. Oof.
Yes. Okay.
Speaking of workforce issues in America today,
Yeah, right.
right? Wow.
I'm almost
right.
done. A couple more things. One is the Heights project. I'm sure many of you are familiar with. I have been meeting with them. I'm meeting with that larger group tomorrow at 11. Really trying to dial in opportunities to start a 24 construction. I am
24 apartments?
no, sorry.
24.
Oh,
2024.
2024.
Yeah, apologies.
Oh,
Yeah.
We're talking like 32 apartments, aren't they?
36.
36?
36. There's some flex in that,
Yeah.
but the IRRR is, speaking of them, it's a small world, Chair. They have a pot of money coming out in the fall that's explicitly for housing, and it is flexible. And so this is an opportunity to try to double dip, if you will. And I've talked to them about this. Depending on the project, IRRR is open to doing both infrastructure and this other pot
and
of
the
money.
housing money?
Potentially, yep. So I'm really trying to help and encourage this group to get the project scope defined. And we have a whole sources and uses sort of matrix that I've been working on with them. So tomorrow I'm going to talk to the larger group about timing and that sort of thing, because I don't want them to miss out, at least on the opportunity to apply for some of these funds.
Correct.
And then again, that would be a 2024. And they're looking at splitting the property into 2 chunks. And I have a potentially interested builder to build on the other part, townhomes. So we'll see. Irons and fires. The other quick thing is simply I had a meeting this afternoon, right before this meeting, with county planning and zoning team, Tim Nelson and Eva Maxwell. I had presented the Planning Commission, the County Planning Commission, several weeks ago. Just as an introduction, there's a lot of new commissioners right now. And
On the planning?
correct, yeah, on the Planning Commission. And so I had met with them to introduce the HRA and also really to talk at a larger level about how housing and zoning really interact. And subsequent to that, I've been working with staff on ways to look at the zoning ordinance, things to like, what are some things we could do to make housing easier to build in this community? Where do we want to build it? And so out of the conversation today, just to keep you apprised, I think where we had a consensus is this is an opportunity to talk about development in Cook County and from a planning perspective, a little wider scope. And I've been talking to the board about this for a while, and they're in agreement. So they're going to talk with the Administrator Yorkie about what that looks like, and we're going to kind of put together sort of framework to how to think about this. Even though I've told her not to, the future EDA director and I have been talking about this. She's supposed to be, tomorrow's her last day in Duluth, and she'll be coming up here. But we're talking about the opportunity to work together on that sort of larger development framework. So I'll keep you up to speed on how that's going, but we're at the beginning stages, but at least we have some sort of marching orders right now to how to proceed. And then finally, I'm going to be out of the office. Chair, you know this, but starting next Tuesday, not next, oh, thank God, I'm not ready. The 29th through the 7th, I will be out of the office. just to let you know, if you need anything, I will not be able to help you. That is it for me. Any questions about all those things? Okay.
Okay. The next item on the agenda, thank you, Jason, for
Welcome.
all of those updates. Committee reports, any,
No updates on the finance committee?
right?
I have a question for the finance committee.
Mhm.
Has any progress been made for bookkeeper search?
No.
Understood.
I have a question. Am I on any committees? Should I know?
Would you
about-
like to be?
Well, no, but I would. But I'm willing. I mean, I want to do my share. you know.
Take up.
So we have finance and we have personnel? I think those are the only two that we have.
Well, if they're limited to 2 people, because if there's 3, there's a quorum
There's a
of the
quorum,
board,
right.
and so it kind
so
of
they're
defeats the
already
committee idea.
All right, well, I stand prepared.
Yeah, it's the smallest committee possible.
You can create the
That's
committee of
right.
your dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever you want. I just wanted to check, and I had a note to myself, so I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just wanted to follow up on
It's
it.
a good reminder, and we'll follow up after this meeting.
Perfect.
Well, and the other thing maybe we might need to keep in mind about that is we might not be able to engage the services of a bookkeeper until the 2024 budget is approved. Correct?
Well, is that correct? I mean, honestly, or it depends on what the numbers are showing for 2023. You know, if there's
Carry
excess
forward.
funds in one type of,
Yeah.
you know, if we thought, well, we're gonna pay the lawyers more and we're paying them less.
Okay.
Usually you can make a transfer
Yeah.
of that kind to, you know, especially a bookkeeper here, which would be necessary. But I guess that depends on, where are we gonna be for the 2023 budget, and then
Right.
and that kind of is an ancillary question among commissioners' items, which is how is the county budget coming? And any feedback on our part of that, our small part of that budget, I guess, is be interested.
I can let you know that the preliminary budget will not be approved till September 12th, and there's a lot of moving pieces right now. We still have the capital improvement plan to make a determination on. That public hearing will be next Tuesday, the 22nd of August. That'll be a very long meeting, I'm sure. We actually have a second public hearing on that day with our cannabis ordinance, so, yeah, so it'll
Wow,
be
you
busy.
guys have so.
But in addition to the, looking at the overall levy numbers, we are still very up in the air about what's going to happen with a significant portion of our budget related to federal PILT. We actually had a call with Representative Stauber's staffer this morning, number of people from Cook, Lake, and St. Louis County. And initially, we were supposed to hear back in May what the Department of Agriculture was determining. We still have not heard. And so, anyway, everything is on hold at this point with that. And we just don't feel we can allocate or spend any money because there's the potential we could have to pay back years of money. And we're hoping that won't happen, but we're working with Representative Stauber, with Senator Smith as well, and we will inform you as soon, and the rest of the public, as soon as we hear, but that's a very significant part of our budget.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna ask, can you help me understand what so I know the PILT payments is, where is the gap? So is the federal government like behind on providing local government aid to the county, or what's the?
So what happened is in 2018, they significantly reduced the amount, the annual amount that would go to St. Louis, Cook, and Lake County. Very significant, about $500,000 a year. And so then you determine if the Department of Agriculture makes a decision where we're continuing to get that payment, but we might have to pay it back at a lower rate. We're getting the 2008 payment. We might have to pay it back at what it was assessed for in 2018. Between the three counties, we would owe the federal government $6 million.
Oh, my.
So why are they continuing to pay it if they have a, how does that make sense?
They're continuing to pay at the 2008 rate because we requested it. We appealed their decision.
Oh, I see.
We appealed their decision. They came back, made another decision. We appealed that one.
Yikes.
So it's going to be interesting because it's whether the Department of Agriculture makes a decision or whether there is legislation that goes forward before the U.S. Congress.
Okay.
And so I'm not holding my breath. It could be next March or April before we find out. But it's a significant portion of money. I will have to say, we are very fortunate that Brady Powers has been very conservative with our funds. We've not spent that, so we can pay it back.
Wow.
I'm not sure that's been done in every other county.
I doubt it.
But, you know, we are in good shape that way. But it really is a significant amount when you look at it over a period of time.
Was the policy change only affecting those three counties in Minnesota? Or
Yes, it was
there
an
a national-
appraisal, it was an appraisal of the boundary waters.
Yeah.
And basically, what it was valued at is about 16,000 acres of timber and nothing else. No mineral rights, no lakeshore value.
And prior to that, it had
And
been
think
shown
about the
on
value of property. Has the value of property anywhere gone down,
Yeah. No, it's a, so
This is,
except in the boundary waters?
this is an age-old issue. My dad grappled with this when he was on the board in 1982. So they're always
Yep.
trying to, they're always,
And there's different
Trying to reduce it.
approaches to how you deal with it. You know, if it goes forward as legislation, a lot of people around the country could say, we don't have land like this. Our county doesn't get money for land that's not being utilized. So would there be support?
Yeah.
So it's very, very tricky.
Right.
But, you know, we gave up a lot of land, millions of acres between the three counties to create the boundary waters. And there was an understanding that there would be payment in lieu of taxes for that.
Yeah.
And so it comes back to, how are they going to assess the value? Is it a formula? Is there any inflation connected with that? Do we have to go back every 10 years forever to keep looking at this? There's lots of questions to answer.
So you need a different appraiser, basically.
Yes.
it's complicated.
Yeah.
Can I change the subject? Sure. This, probably, I should know this, but what's the status of our relationship to the two one roof projects that had phase one but have never had their phase 2 and 3, the one in Grand Marais and the one in Lutzy?
So the status of the potential phase twos, not the first phases, is what you're asking?
There's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
relationship to the.
Yeah,
ones
the
that
HRA
are
wasn't around when the
completed.
first two were built.
Right.
Actually, One Roof is planning on listing both of those properties for sale.
The undeveloped portions of the
Yeah.
land remaining.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. So in town, there was, they had conceptualized phase twos for both of those. They just can't do it.
It was very difficult for them at the great distance from where their people live.
Yeah, no, I know.
You know,
I'm very intimate with the first phase. I just wondered
Yeah.
about
yeah.
Yeah, in fact, they went to the EDA. I was working with them in the back end to help. There was some language actually that precluded them from being able to list part of the property at the Four Directions. So that has been amended to allow them to do what they need to do to sell it. The EDA, I think, rightfully thought, well, and I supported One Roof, if it's better to not sit vacant and have somebody do something productive with it. So they're planning on putting those up. And they actually did reach out, though, I should say, they reached out to the HRA and asked, hey, both these properties are going to be coming available potentially soon. Are you interested? And I said, how much do you want them? How much do you want for them? And they said, we'll get back to you on that. So my presumption is that they're going to sell them at market rate, and if that's the case, we just don't have the capital to do that. Yep.
I think It's too long ago for me to think that I should remember what I thought I was just going to say, so I'm not going to say it. Silly girl.
We are keeping them busy in Cook County, though. They are working on Birchwood right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great news.
Yeah, yep, and I was glad that they are still around. One other quick thing is just that they do have an interest in land trust homes here, continuing more land trust homes and working with the HRA. It's just timing and finding the right property for that, so.
So that's it for committee?
Yep.
And then commissioner items, any individual commissioner have anything? I have one. I just want to remind us that the EDA agreed to support the HRA when the $100,000 that's traditionally been levied for housing development didn't fall under either one of our budgets for 2023. The EDA agreed to support the HRA's projects. We have gone to them and requested and received 50,000, but there should be another 50,000 there. And so if there are things, Jason, in 2023 that would be an appropriate ask to support housing projects?
Well, the bookkeeper comes up to mind right away.
We could spend that
If
money many
needed,
times
but
over.
But it's not, it's for hard costs of development, not for soft
Yeah,
costs of
and
development.
we'd want to go through where we are year-to-date on all sorts of stuff, and before we ask for 50,000.
No, but for a project.
Yeah, well, that's my
Strictly
point.
for a project.
Yeah,
So you just talked about the cost of concrete for,
Sure, yep.
right?
Suspect village,
I
yep.
mean,
That's the type of thing.
that's the kind of thing I'm thinking about.
yeah.
So just keep that in mind. It's an opportunity that we ought not to let slide by. If it's available to us, we should take advantage of that and put it to good use for the good of the people, for the good of the county.
Noted.
Okay. Any other,
Just, one quick thing, I've got a scheduled conflict with the meeting in September, so I'll be out that week. I think there'll still be a quorum.
Did we talk about that last meeting, or was that somebody else?
I had one in October.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
had
we
one in
moved the
October.
October date.
So the October date has been moved.
Did we talk September 20th? Yeah,
September 20th.
I'm back from a canoe trip on about the 24th or so.
Okay. Is anybody else planning on being out that day? Wednesday, the 20th? Okay.
Well, it is grouse season.
You did
Grouse
mention
season,
that.
but
That's true. You
I
did
think
mention
I could make a meeting.
Drive the back roads and get your bag
That's-
limit
you might- you
On the way
might-
home, Bill.
On the
Yeah,
way
I might have some orange on, but we'll see.
So a reminder that the October meeting is on the 11th, on the second Wednesday instead of the third Wednesday.
Thank you.
And has that date been secured here at the courthouse, the room? Okay. I just didn't see it on their calendar. It should be. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for asking. I can double check though.
Any other business for the board today? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Bill Hanson moves to adjourn his first meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
Second by O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you,
Meeting
everyone.
is adjourned.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, we should probably just.
Good job.
Just set a standing.
We should go have Jana.
Yes, I will go let her know that we are finished.
Earlier the weekend was the HR board meeting.
To the credit union.
Okay.
Even if it's just by phone.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's just a little bit of.
Just so you know, you're still on the.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Figure it
I'll
out.
send it, I'll follow up with an email.
She will be a good asset. Yeah, she already found a place and she sold her house. That's amazing. I know, I said,
That's fantastic.
Yeah, how'd you do that?
Well, sometimes it works.
That's what I hear. Sometimes it's not often, sometimes it does. She's very excited.
Golly.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Very good.
It's not raining.
Not yet.
I'll go tell Jana, Jason.
All righty.
Thank you, Mary.
Hey, Jason.
Oh, my.
Oh, my.
Let's see here.
Oh, thank you, James. No worries. You know, you were busy in a meeting. Always.
Oops. That's not good. So where are you headed on vacation?